Purdy out of the shotgun, drops a couple of steps, going to take a deep shot to Brandon Ayuk. It's deflected and caught.
Cousins, first read taken away. Left side, he throws. Wide open pitch.
From being able to make a play on that football.
That's where Sutton was so good last year in the red zone.
Nix evades the run. Nix the fake. Another fake, and he spins into the end zone.
They're going to get a free play. Rodgers is the master at it, and a touchdown by Lazard. Jones on the fake. Pressure coming, and he's sacked by Parsons.
God, corner.
Open man Hudson.
The throw caught. Hudson lost the ball. Looked like a touchdown. Instead, it's a turnover.
On the pocket. Cuts away from Chenal, who's trying to get after him for a second time, but the ball is thrown to the end zone, and it's caught! On it to McCaffrey right up the middle, and a stiff arm. McCaffrey for 6.
If you guys didn't know by now, and it wasn't an indication that I am blind, well, the intro of that show is your indication right there, because I thought I was pressing the intro button, but instead I ended up pressing the background music button and letting it run for like a minute or two, not knowing that it was the background music. So this show's already off to a great start. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Extra Point, a Sunday night edition of the Extra Point here on the MI6 Sports Network, as well as simulcasting on the IM6 Network. My name is Isaiah Leong. That's my co-host to your right, or my right, James Gonzalez over here. See, this is how you know I'm blind without glasses, because I can barely see. But that's my host co-host James Gonzalez there. We got a big show for you guys. Like a lot of people that you saw playing in that intro video, you know, we're gonna be
with the team anymore.
What's that?
A lot of the players in that intro video are on different teams now.
A lot of players are on different teams now, but also a lot of the stuff that happened in the video like are indicative of what happened today. Like Tua Tagovailoa throwing a pick. I mean, are you surprised? He threw a pick in the video. He threw a pick today.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you doing today, James?
I got a lot of sleep during the Raider game. I got up early because we had the game, I think, in London, right, between the Rams and the Jags. Didn't really pay attention to the Sunday night game because we got baseball happening. The Blue Jays won, I think, 6-2 or 6-1, whatever it was. 5 to. I'm sorry, what was the score? I'm like you now. 5-1, I believe, and they will force a Game 7 tomorrow night, right in the middle of the Monday Night Football doubleheader. That sucks. Luckily, I'll be at work, so I'll listen to some things. But yeah, just watching all the football, watched all the college football action too. There's just so much that went on.
Well, I mean, speaking of sleep, I didn't get a lot of sleep because I stayed up late for that Florida State Stanford game last night. Which we'll talk about, you know, at the end of the show. But my God, like you talk about football, the football weekend being drunk. I mean, from this week, from that game, the ending of that game, and then the Giants Broncos ending, which we'll get into later on. Like this was just a drunk football weekend. But yeah, do you guys like what if you guys like the show, go ahead and give us a like, you know, a follow as well, subscribe, you know, any comments that you guys may have, go ahead and, you know, flood our comment section with comments. We would love to hear your guys' thoughts on everything that we have to talk about. But I'll give it to my guy James, who give him the floor for the rest of the show.
Pause. So let's talk about the Sunday night game just to get rid of it. What's on your jersey is Christian McCaffrey. It was a battle of the two explosive running backs, one more than the other. But it looked like San Francisco, they served pretty much all game. They won 20-10. Their defense, as injured as it was coming in without Fred Warner, who got the foot or ankle injury? He'll be out for the rest of the season.
It was the
ankle injury. Thank you. Just another player out, and the Niners are so much used to this. Brock Purdy was out. I believe they had another receiver. Pearsall was out as well. And we were wondering how San Francisco was going to come out. Well, their defense, all the young guys, just really stepped up. They pressured Penix Jr. very well. Didn't allow him to do too much. There was 2 sacks on him. Just a lot of young players stepping up, and it just shows like what they drafted for, what they scouted for. They really, really did well. Looked like Christian McCaffrey just got 2 touchdowns on the ground, and that's all they really needed. Jones did throw 1 pick. Didn't really throw for too much. Penix, was going to get his yards and 1 touchdown, but other than that, Bijan Robinson. Let me tell you, San Francisco 49ers did a great job stopping him. He only got 40 yards, stay on the ground. 52 through the air, and did score a touchdown through the air. But if you saw what he did Monday against Buffalo's defense, you thought, oh, crap, you're in trouble. But tonight, they really, really put a wall on him and just didn't allow him to do too much. So, Isaiah, summarize real quick your thoughts on the 49er win over the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football.
I thought it was domination by the Niners, actually. This game was one-sided. The Falcons, they never really got close, to be honest. I know they had the lead. It was 3-0. At one point in the first quarter, it was 13-10, I believe, Niners heading into the fourth. But, the Niners had control of this game from, I think, middle of the first until the end of the game. I felt like the Niners defense really corralled Michael Penix Jr. They didn't let him, great game plan by Robert Saleh and Colt, not letting him get out of the pocket and run with the football. They stopped the running game. Bijan Robinson was held in check for most of this game. I think he had only maybe 1 or 2 explosive carries, but other than that, he was held in check for a lot of the game. And then, you talk about the sacks. It was basically with everybody injured, you basically have to have a team pressure on defense mentality. And that's what the Niners did. It was not one individual wrecking havoc on the quarterback. It was basically everybody getting after him and everybody kind of pressuring. And then you would have one guy finishing off Michael Penix Jr., one guy affecting him to his ability to throw the football. I also think that Michael Penix was off tonight. You could see it. He was off tonight. There was a couple throws to Drake London where he missed. The one to Darnell Mooney where you could blame Mooney for it, you could blame Penix for it, but it was right there where you had to, if you wanted to have a chance to come back in the game, you had to convert that. But yeah, this was more of a defensive slugfest between both teams. It was low scoring, defensive battle between both of these two sides. The star of the show was my guy right here, and I was rocking his jersey all throughout the game, James. The best player in the NFL, Christian McCaffrey, showing he's back, man. You could see it. I think the last couple of weeks he's had to get his legs under him, but you could see the real CMC is back now. His explosiveness, his ability to bounce off tackles, his ability to, get into the hole and just ram through them. It was very impressive what we saw from Christian McCaffrey tonight. He single-handedly was the offense because he was great at running the football. I think he had 159 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. You can argue the second touchdown maybe should not have counted because that maybe should have been a penalty when he was dragged by all the offensive linemen into the end zone. But Christian McCaffrey single-handedly was the Niners offense tonight. Nobody else besides him really did much on offense. They just ran the football down the Falcons' throat. McCaffrey did his thing on the ground and also catching the football through the air. And then the defense just dominated and kept Penix in check. It was just very impressive just to watch. And it was an old school level football game between, the Falcons and the 49ers. What perplexes me though, James, is the decision by Raheem Morris to down 13-10 to not kick that field goal. I think they should have kicked it at that time in the game. I think he made like you remember when Georgia played Alabama and Kirby Smart went for it on 4th and 1, down by 3 with about 11 minutes to go. Like, you got to kick that in that situation. I know you're trying to get greedy.
Analytics are killing the league, man.
Exactly. And not just that. James, this is what I have a problem with coaches in the NFL and college. 4th and 1. You're going to go shotgun and you're going to throw the football. What are you even doing to that? Like, you got to be kidding me. You're going to throw it on 4th and 1? That is such a, like, horrendous play call by Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator. Like, if you're going to go for it on 4th and 1, why not go under center and just run it down the throats of the 49ers? Or quarterback sneak it. Like, exactly. This is what I hate about football. It's like some of these offensive coordinators, they just think they're so smart. They end up overthinking themselves, and then like they end up like calling dumb stuff like that. So, great win by the Niners. Flex their muscle over the Falcons. Great team defense. Great, CMC is back, which is great to see. I'm looking forward to see what when Brock Purdy comes back next week. I think against the Texans, how he looks. If CMC can carry this over, because that would make the Niners offense very explosive moving forward. I just think like with the Niners, just the team defense was great. The tackling was great. I know Diamador Lenore had a couple of penalties, especially late in the game, which really hurt. But other than that, like, just very impressive. Just total domination by the 49ers to win this game. And about the Falcons, Michael Penix, when he's off, because he had a couple of like open guys down the field where he missed them. And you're like, damn, bro, if you hit that, this is a totally different game.
They had some drops too, though. Who was it? Mooney had that drop late in the game with the post over the middle, and he kind of clapped his hands after. He had the pink shoes on. That was a big deal. I noticed a couple of things. Curtis Robinson, he's the linebacker number 59. This was his first action of the year. He had a tackle. But thinking about it, this is his first action ever when you think about it. He was behind all the linebackers they ever had in his 4 years with the Niners, and he's been thrusted in because of all the injuries. It goes to show you, I don't know if it's coaching, I don't know if it's just motivation from, Lynch and the management, but they always seem, no matter who it is, to plug in somebody and they just do the job. You might not know who it is, but that scouting, they really go after high character guys. And the ones who aren't there are the high character guys. Okay, so that's James, what bugs me about. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I was just gonna give a shout out to a couple guys. Eddie Pinero, the kicker. Wrote a couple of deep field goals that was outstanding. Niners finally found their kicker.
55-yarder was
55-yarder. Yeah, and it was right down the middle too. It wasn't like. Yeah, it wasn't like it was like almost like, or it snuck in or whatever. It was like right down the middle. He had a great game, and he's been having really solid games for the Niners ever since we got him.
Have you solved your kicking problems with him now?
I think we have. And also what's crazy is like Jake Moody went to the Bears, and he looks like a totally different guy. He's doing, which I'm happy to see. But also want to shout out D Winters. He was a guy that.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he's not replacing the role that Warner is, but he's going to be the veteran now in that defense, in that linebackers room. He was outstanding, like getting after the quarterback. He didn't get I don't think he got a sack, but couple times he forced Penix to throw the ball like way too early when he didn't want to release it at that time. And also I think he caused one of the like where Penix like cocked his arm and then like he was about to throw and then he hit his arm and then it was a fumble, but it was an incomplete pass. But still, he had a tremendous night tonight, just all over the field.
Okay, so that run where McCaffrey is carried in, you rarely see it called illegal. But according to the rules, you cannot be carried forward. You wouldn't be carried back, of course, but carried forward. I would love to see a revision on that or emphasis maybe next season or maybe right now with the referees since they've seen it, but it just seems like they never call that. I don't know why.
What's crazy about that is like I've seen it a couple times in the NFL, but it's like I feel like isn't the tush push pretty much the same thing too? Like where you're getting
Well,
pushed in, but it's from like 1 yard out.
it's not being brought forward. It's being
Yeah,
pushed
true,
forward
true.
from behind. That's why that's allowed. And maybe because you see that all the time, you don't see it where McCaffrey's being pulled forward. Maybe that's the reason why.
I mean, I
Um,
I thought I thought he was gonna get blown down for forward progress because I thought that's what they typically do. Like when there's a scrum, you're like, yeah, okay, like it's forward progress, ball's dead. I thought they were gonna do
happened
that.
this week.
I don't know why they didn't blow the whistle on that. That was crazy to watch.
I think there was a college game that happened. I can't remember, but there was forward
Oh,
progress, and everybody was pissed because he was still going, but they ruled it dead.
oh, it was a Georgia
Um,
Auburn game last week.
I think it was,
It
yeah.
was there was a play where they root. It was supposed to be a fumble for Georgia or a fumble for Georgia, yeah. Or Auburn had or it was like a fumble that would have given Auburn the ball, but then they blew it dead because Georgia, the Georgia like guy was blown for forward progress. But there was a lot of bad calls in that game too.
So you want to get into the week that was of football? Is it week 7 already? No, week 6, right? No, week 7. It's already over for my team, of course. But let's start in order. I don't want to talk about my team right away. Why would you? Thursday night was Pittsburgh at Cincinnati, the rivalry, AFC North rivalry, and you had two 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks just ball out. It was crazy to see, crazy to watch, and you really didn't think that was going to happen. But the Bengals got away with a win. I believe it was a field goal by McPherson to do it. 33-31. It was a really great back and forth game. Bengals now to go 3-4. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh is 4-2. Quickly. So Aaron Rodgers, he threw for 4 touchdowns. He had two picks. He had that one interception where he threw it right to 2 Bengals. It felt like he just lobbed it in the air. That just looked really awful. He's going to do that sometimes. You got to take the good with the bad. I think over the years he's done that as well. But Jalen Warren had a good game on the ground. And then Pat Freiermuth had a couple of touchdowns, and you could hear his name being yelled out. The Bengals did do a good job of having everybody wear white and not sell their tickets. So that was really good. But Joe Flacco, man, he was really the story of the game. He even ran for a 3-yard gain that shouldn't have been, or more than I should say, a 12-yard gain. But he threw for 342 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He was sacked twice. Jamar Higgins, man, he had 16 catches for 161 yards and 1 touchdown. T. Higgins had 96 yards receiving with a touchdown. And Noah Fant caught a touchdown. But this is more about Jamar Chase just owning whomever. Slay, Ramsey, that secondary of Pittsburgh. Like I mentioned on TikTok, the secondary got sliced and diced. It was just crazy. Even Higgins got into the act too. I thought, Ramsey was supposed to be this lockdown corner. You don't have to worry about him and who he is on. He's just gonna get shut down. But that definitely wasn't the case. Chase was going over the middle on the slant, or there was the fade route, post routes, whatever he wanted to run, he did. And it was very easy for that. Rodgers wasn't sacked, but he was sacked by his own player. I think it was, oh God, what was his name? He's kind of crazy too. Let me see. Oh, Demetrius Jones, I think was his name. But after a touchdown, it was a funny little awkward moment that happened where Rodgers was sacked by his own teammate going off the field after a touchdown. And then, but yeah, what was the game called? It was the 2 old quarterbacks. They called it the something game.
It was like the Unk game. The Unk.
Yeah,
Was it?
I like that.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
battle
I
of the
heard
Unks or
that in
something.
something else. But quickly, what was your assessment of the Bengal Steeler game on that Thursday? I think it was one of the best of the year, obviously. I think you're on mute. Or you froze. No, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know why that was weird. But yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was like, look, the biggest takeaway is like this was like the old days. This was a throwback to like, the early 2000s, Flacco versus Aaron
Late
Rodgers. Like it
2000s.
was late 2000s, where prime Flacco versus Aaron Rodgers. Like it was crazy, just to see both of those two guys like kind of throw it back to those old days. Rodgers, I think, played well. Like the numbers will say, like, look, he threw 2 picks, but like, yeah, like you said, like he's a guy that, he's gonna take chances. So I thought he played really well in this game. I thought that the Flacco played outstanding in this game. I was very impressed by him, especially, with only a week to learn the Bengals offense.
Yeah.
But James, I think the bigger issue now that's shown in this game is the Steelers' defense is massively overrated. This was supposed to be their bread and butter, or their rock this season that they were supposed to have a great defense, but their defense has underwhelmed like the first, like how many games has it been? 7 now? It's been like they've had 4 clunkers
6.
in 6 weeks. Yeah, they've had 4 clunkers in 6 weeks. Like you give up 30 points to the Jets to start the season with Justin Fields, and that's looking like an absolute albatross right now. And then you give up, I believe they give up 30 points to someone else. I think it was the Patriots, maybe. And then they gave up they give up 30 points. I know like 3 more opponents, but I forgot who it was. But yeah, like the Steelers defense is a big issue.
No, the highest they gave up before was, of course, the Jet game, and then it was 21 to the Vikings at home. I think that was week 3, but 2 games over 30 points they've given up. Only half of a sack to the stars, Hayward and Watt, who got paid, of course, this offseason.
Yeah.
And Hayward is still complaining about not getting paid, too. It's kind of annoying. Hendrickson, I believe, got hurt in this game as well.
Again?
For the Bengals. Yeah.
He had a back injury coming in.
Yeah, I know he was trying to play with it, but he eventually had to leave the game too. But it gives hope for the Bengals. I mean, they play on Thanksgiving, and people were wondering, like, should they? Can they flex that out? But now you're like, okay, if Flacco could kind of roll like this on a better team with somehow better protection than the Browns had, okay, they can make it interesting if the Steelers don't want it.
Yeah, like exactly. If the Bengals like can play like this with Flacco and just kind of hold down the boat, I mean, who knows? Maybe like, because a lot of us, including myself, were anticipating. Look, when Joe Burrow comes back, I mean, should he even come back? Like, what if the Bengals are sitting here in December? Like, what
last show,
what if they're like 2-10? Are you really gonna bring him back at that point? Like, no. So like, if he can just steady the boat, which was their hope, if he can just steady the boat, play like this, you could be looking at not just a playoff team. You could potentially looking at the Bengals competing for the AFC North this season, which is something that would have been a totally wild idea. Yeah, before Flacco got there. So I was very impressed by Flacco, but that Steeler defense, I mean, you got Watt, you got Hayward, you got Ramsey, Darius Slay, you got all these like veterans, all these stars, and like you're playing like this, like they got to get that fixed, because your offense, we never expected for the Steelers, it was their offense was going to be their weak point. The defense was going to be the one that would be the one winning them games. Now it's the opposite. It's the offense that's really doing the heavy lifting. The defense needs to come around. So if you're a Steelers fan, you should be worried about that defense, because it's been 6 weeks now of just subpar play from that defense.
Yeah. So this morning, early, 6:30 here, West Coast time, the Rams took on the Jaguars. I woke up for, I believe, right before halftime. It was already, I think, 21-0 LA. They just dominated all the facets of the game. Devontae Adams had 3 receiving touchdowns. Stafford threw 5 altogether. Just total domination defensively as well until late. Travis Hunter scored some touchdown or one touchdown, caught some passes. He even defended pretty well on Devontae Adams when they put him out there. I think it's time for him to play both ways. Now they dropped to 4-3. LA's right there, I believe, at 5-2. It's just maybe time, Hunter, that he really has to show up. The reason why you drafted so high, that you could do both. But I think today was all about Matthew Stafford throwing 5 touchdowns. He just did it in the rain too in the second half. He threw, I think, a couple of them in the second half, or maybe 3. But I'm looking at Travis Hunter to do more. He had 101 yards receiving, 8 catches, 1 touchdown, like I mentioned. But yeah, give the day to Stafford and Adams just hooking up.
Well, my thoughts on it is, I mean, what a performance by the Rams. Shout out to our guy Casey King who's watching right now. Yeah, your Rams was amazing. I think I said on the show, me and Ben did Kicking It with Cruz on Thursday, I think, or Wednesday, and we made our predictions for the week 6 or week 7 games.
You did
and-
without Puka. How dare you?
Yeah. I said that I thought they would fall apart without Puka, and you know what? I was wrong on that, so I'll take that L. But yeah, I mean, the Rams played well. The defense was outstanding. Trevor Lawrence, for some reason, he went back to the old ways. And he's gone back to the old ways like the last couple of weeks, against the Seahawks last week, I think it was, and then now against the Rams, where you're like, dude, this is the same Trevor Lawrence from, last year and the year before that was awful, but not the new Trevor Lawrence who was beating teams and really dominating. The defense, suffered a setback. They were awful today, but the Rams, defense for the Rams was great. Stafford was outstanding. It's about time that Travis Hunter finally showed out, because I think we've all been waiting for that breakout game of his where, he would go off as a receiver because he's that talented. But credit to the Rams. They played really well. They sent the message that they're still one of the best teams in the NFC. And, James, I'm very confused about the Jags, because, who are these Jags? The Jags, the first, 4 weeks of the season, they started 5-1 or 4-1. Mm-hmm. And then they looked great. Trevor Lawrence looked like a new man, new quarterback. Liam Cohen's offense was rolling. And then the last 2 weeks, they've just been shut down. Trevor looks awful.
A lot of the receivers dropped a lot of passes today too for the Jaguars. Yep. I know it's because of the weather too, but still, they had a lot of hands on the football, but couldn't complete the passes. I think his receivers really let him down today, and sometimes his offensive line let him down. There were a lot of 4th downs that they went for and didn't succeed on. It was just a lot of letdowns for the Jaguars, and it feels like every team is like this so far, except 4 or 5 teams where they start off well or they look well at a certain point, but they end up how you think they're going to be, or how they should be, or how they were last year. And the Jaguars are one of those teams right now.
Also keep in mind though, and I think we forgot that this would probably play a factor going into this game, is that Liam Cohen was a Rams OC under Sean McVay for a couple of years, so he kind of knows McVay knows what Cohen knows Cohen well, and knows what he likes and doesn't like. So credit to the Rams defense. They really just played well. And the poor people of London, they've had some really good games this year, but this one was just, this was a letdown for sure. But the Rams, tremendous.
So you can be one of the disciples, but eventually God knows who you are still. That's what I feel like when you talk about McVay and all of his coaches. If you go against him, he's going to know who you are and what you scheme, because he's asked you before probably hey, if you were head coach, what would you do here? He let one of his assistants, I think the last preseason game, I forget against who it was, but he let him be the head coach, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Was it Mike LaFleur?
It could have been. I can't remember. But it was this preseason, and I again, I can't remember who it was against, but it was one of those things where it's like, oh, that's so cool. You don't think about that, but you're getting prepped to leave McVay eventually and do your own thing. The 10 a.m. games or the morning games here. Start off with Chicago and New Orleans. Not much to say about this. Chicago did on the ground mostly. Williams did throw a pick. But DeAndre Swift had an old game, old style game. 19 carries, 124 yards, and a touchdown. And then his counterpart, Kyle Monaghy, had 81 yards with the touchdown as well. For the Saints, though, Rattler, he threw for 2 touchdowns but had 3 interceptions. You're going to get that from him. He is not going to be great. It's just not going to happen. And then Alvin Kamara this year, it just feels like he's on a milk carton. That's like an old kind of saying for someone who's really missing this year. He's really the main guy of the team, and he's not really doing much this year, I feel like, Kamara. Maybe offenses are really, dialing up on him, making sure he's not really doing much out of the field. But Olave had 2 receiving touchdowns, but not much else from Shaheed or Jawan Johnson. The Bears defense just did a really good job. They had 1 sack on Rattler, but I think they were able to stop the run, it looked like, whenever I was watching the highlights of that game. That was really, really big on that one. Just a lot of nothing for the Saints offense today. I'm trying to see if they forced a fumble to Chicago, but there were 3 interceptions. But really quick, Isaiah, what do you think about the Bears winning that and going to 4-2, and the Saints going to 1-6?
Honestly, my reaction is like, okay. It's a good win, I guess, but like beating the Saints is pretty much nothing because the Saints suck. Rattler's not the long-term answer at quarterback.
No.
I mean, he's not like the worst quarterback, but he's not good at all. So, I think like shout out to the Bears. I mean, they get another win. That's 4 in a row now for the Bears in terms of their wins. Dennis Allen.
Oh, that's right.
Dennis Allen is a bad head coach, but the guy is a tremendous mind when it comes to defense, and he can scheme up a defense. And so this was his revenge game going back facing his former team, the team that fired him. So, he obviously wanted to prove them wrong. But the Bears, I think like the combination that they have, the 2 at running back, Ben Johnson comes from Detroit. He wants to run that, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs style of running, like with a power back and a change of pace back that's just reliant on speed and can get the ball, in space as a receiver. But I think he might have found that with those 2. We'll see moving forward with Montgomery, or is it Montgomery? It's DeAndre Swift as that power back, and then the other guy being that change of pace, speedster. But the Bears, I'm very surprised by them because I actually didn't think the Bears would be like where they are right now. I think they're what are they 4-2 right now? The Bears
4-2.
4-2. Yeah. Credit to Ben Johnson. He's done a great job there. And remember, Caleb hasn't really had that explosive Caleb-like superstar game so far. They're doing it with a lot of the running game. They're doing it with a lot of short passes and stuff like that. It seems like Ben Johnson doesn't really trust Caleb Williams right now. I can't wait to see that offense. Once Caleb Williams has, complete control of that offense, once he understands how it's going to look moving forward. But shout out to the Bears. I mean, they're 4-2 right now. Didn't expect that. I thought they would be like 3-3, maybe 2-4 at best, or 2-4 maybe. But they're winning games, and I'm surprised by their start.
A lot of it maybe is their schedule, but you play who's ever on it. It's just amazing to think. Out of training camp, remember, Caleb Williams could not understand Ben Johnson's offense coming in training camp. He did have a great performance against the Bills in preseason. I know that was only like 1/2 or 1/4, whatever it was, but maybe some things can translate. Really nothing translated for the Miami Dolphins today. as they go to 1-6 in rainy and windy Cleveland. As the Browns won, they go to 2-5. Cleveland won 31-6 over the Miami Dolphins. Let's get to the Browns first because the juicy stuff is the losing, of course. But Dylan Gabriel, he didn't have to do much. He threw 416 yards. But Quinshawn Judkins had 3 rushing touchdowns. If you had him on fantasy, hallelujah. He was awesome for the Browns today. It mainly came down to Cleveland's running game. Tua did get sacked 4 times. And then he threw 3 interceptions, like 2 in a row, by the way, if that makes sense. 1-on-1 drive and 1 right away on the drive right after. Achane had 82 yards rushing, not much in the air. This was just a total domination situation by the Cleveland Browns. They had winds there, I think, up to 40 miles per hour gusts, but it was around, I think, 16 or 18 miles per hour. So all they did was just run the ball. I know Judy had, a couple of catches, but it was mostly about the Browns rushing. But the juicy stuff is Tua, and he had a weird press conference again today. He didn't throw anybody under the bus like he did last week, but there was more accountability, I think, for what he did. Well, it sounded like it, but more or less, let's just talk about the Dolphins and just how bad they have become and how they're at 1-6 now, Isaiah.
Yeah, I saw this before the game on Twitter that the winds were going to be really bad. I forgot someone used the clip from remember that one game day back in the day, James, where it was super windy, the kickers could not kick the ball because the ball was just fluttering
in Chicago.
The wind.
It was the 49ers and Bears. I think it was 05 or 06.
Yeah,
05, I think. Yeah, that was Soldier Field where the ball was. The kicks are just going way out here, or way over there. Yeah,
and the long snapper couldn't even catch the ball too when he was trying to put the ball down for the kicker to kick it because it was just blowing away. But that's why I knew the weather would be an issue in this game because of that clip and the wind, like you mentioned. But to be honest, dude, the Browns, look, Dylan Gabriel has not played bad, and I want to give him a lot of credit because I thought that he would not translate in the NFL because he's too small. He's a guy that doesn't have the best arm. He relies so much on running, and that's like a college thing. But in the NFL, you got to be a really good pocket passer. You got to be at least decent size, 6 feet, or have the athletic abilities to be able to get out of it. And I just didn't think that that Dylan Gabriel has that. But he's been okay so far. He hasn't been great, but he's been okay. But yeah, for the Dolphins, I mean, where do you want me to start? I mean, Mike McDaniel. I mean, you talk about James. You talk about we already had one firing, in Florida with Billy Napier getting fired today. We might have back-to-back firings in the state of Florida. I mean, tomorrow, the state of Florida might become the firing land of head coaches in football because I think Mike McDaniel has coached his last game with the Dolphins. I don't think that he's gonna. I don't think he's going to keep his job after this week. It was just a disaster. The Browns are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're starting their backup quarterback, and now you lose. Not only do you lose, but you lose 31-6 and get just blown out by the Browns, and it was just embarrassing. And I'll tell you this also, James. I think if you're the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa should sit his ass on the bench, and I'm starting Quinn Ewers the rest of the way. See what you have there. Because you know what you have in Tua. He's a guy that's, he's a solid quarterback, but he's a guy that throws a lot of picks. He's an interception waiting to happen. I mean, it's look at our clip that we have of him on our intro video. It's literally Tua throwing a pick. So, I don't think there's really any much that you need to see from Tua. I heard rumors, and I don't know how true they are that. And sorry, James, to bring it up, but the Raiders could pursue a trade for Tua and maybe get rid of Geno Smith.
No.
That's the rumor that I've been hearing is that the Raiders could send a couple picks to Miami to get Tua and then replace Geno Smith. But Yeah, it's not good if you're the Dolphins. And I think that, that was just an embarrassment. And I could see, and I think, I'll tell you this right now, I think that Mike McDaniel will be fired tomorrow morning. And I'll be shocked if he still has his job. And I think that, speaking of Florida, Mike Norvell will be gone too. So Florida will be the firing capital of head coaches in football.
Owed money. Staying in the AFCs, excuse me. In Tennessee, the New England Patriots won 31-13. 31 was the magic number for 3 teams today, I think, by the way. But New England goes to 5-2, and Mama said there'll be days like this. There'll be days like this. For Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans, fresh off of firing their old head coach, Brian Callahan, they go to 1-6. Talk about the good first. Drake May, 222 yards passing, only missed 2 passes, threw for 2 touchdowns, was sacked 4 times. One of them he had to leave the game for, and Joshua Dobbs came in, and he threw a pass for 12 yards. But Ramondre Stevenson actually had a decent game for once. He actually ran for a touchdown. Stephon Diggs did well. And then Kayshon Boutte had a receiving touchdown that was right down the middle, and he just got it by his fingertips. That was pretty cool to see. But the Patriot defense got to Ward 5 times, 5 sacks there. Ward threw for 1 touchdown, 1 pick, threw for 255 yards. But nothing on the ground for Tennessee. Nothing really there. Shamir Deke had a touchdown for the Tennessee receivers, and that was pretty much it. Like, there was nothing else for Tennessee to do there. This was an easier game to win than the last time New England was in Tennessee. Remember last year, there was a last-second touchdown, I think, made by New England. Well, this time it was easier for the Patriots. What do you think about this one in Nashville?
Yeah, this was Mike Vrabel's revenge game, going back to Tennessee after they had fired him a couple of years ago. Not really a surprise because, Vrabel had revenge on his mind. You knew he was going to go and try to blow out the Titans and send a message, and he did that. The Patriots, look, like I said, that win over Buffalo a couple of weeks ago, that was not just a great win. That was a franchise-changing win because you now give your team the confidence that they can beat anybody on any given day or night at any level. And, now they're believing in themselves. And I really think, you look at the Patriots, they have a really good defense. That defensive line gets after it. Milton Williams has been a tremendous addition for the Patriots. Drake May, I don't know about you, James, but coming into the season, I wasn't really that sold on him before because I was like, there's a lot of hype around him. I haven't really watched a lot of his games, but I know he's got the athletic abilities and the talent, but he just hasn't really been consistent with it. Well, this year he's been very consistent. Ramondre Stevenson didn't fumble finally for the first time in a long time. But yeah, that Patriots team, I mean, they are really looking like a solid team right now. And I think, I have them as a playoff team. I don't know. Did you have them as a playoff team to start the season? Because I know they were one of the biggest, bigger sleepers that a lot of people were talking about.
No, because I had both, AFC West teams, and then I think I had the Bengals or the Steelers, so I didn't have them in there.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, they look really good. And Vrabel, this is what happens when you hire a competent head coach. Look what happened. Gerard Mayo last year, out, trash. And then this year, Vrabel comes in, totally different culture, totally different stuff there. Now they're winning and they look really solid. So this team looks like a playoff team, and they got to continue it moving forward because, look, they got an easy schedule moving forward. But we've seen in the NFL, anybody can beat anybody if you just take your eye off the ball.
That's right. You ready for this one? The Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they're back. They shut out the Raiders today. Oakland are 31-0. Patrick Mahomes, 3 touchdowns. They set him, I think, in the third quarter, I want to say. Threw for 286 yards. Pacheco had a touchdown. He's not as explosive as years in the past, I've noticed. But Kareem Hunt didn't do as well, but it was more about their passing and early. They fed Kelsey, and then they really fed Rashee Rice coming back from his 6-game suspension. He had 2 touchdowns receiving. Hollywood Brown had a touchdown receiving. The defense got to Geno Smith one time. I mean, it just looked like the Chiefs are back, sadly, or the Raiders made them look that well. Geno Smith, yikes, had 67 yards passing. He was sacked once. He had a fumble that he recovered early. Kenny Pickett was in the game in third quarter, I want to say, or fourth. I think it was in the third quarter. I don't know. I was asleep for it. The first snap he had, he fumbled, and I think the Chiefs recovered. JT only had 21 yards rushing. There was no Jacoby Myers. There was no Brock Bowers. Max Crosby got hit low on a block by the backup tight end, 83. And he had to miss from the second quarter on, I believe. But nothing really in the air. It was just an awful game. Both quarterbacks, yeah, like I mentioned, fumbled once. They did sack. Jamal Adams got the sack on Mahomes early. But that's pretty much it. Nothing really else for the Raiders. They got embarrassed, and now they go into the bye week, and they could lose that too. But it was just a really embarrassing moment. The Raiders go to 2-5. Still, the Chiefs go to 4-3, and they look like themselves again. I mean, all 3 of their weapons are back with Worthy, Rice, and you got Kelsey now. With the running attack that they have of Hunt and Pacheco. Are you fearful of the Chiefs now taking over again?
I am, and it's because not just because they're back, but because I don't think that Baltimore or Buffalo will be able to get over that hump and beat them like
Nope.
like we always think that they will, because they never do.
And Baltimore's not there this year.
Yeah, Baltimore's not there. Steelers,
No.
I picked them in the AFC Championship, but that defense is atrocious. So I don't know if Rodgers can win a shootout with Mahomes. But yeah, the Chiefs are back. I mean, getting Rashee Rice really helped. He was outstanding today. Mahomes, did his thing. Travis Kelce had a down game, and they whooped the Raiders with him having a down game. I mean, James, I hate to say it, but I think that Pete might walk away after this year because I think it's gonna.
Week.
What's that?
That's what I said last week.
Yeah,
last time we did a show.
I mean, this team, sadly, people are online saying that it's worse than the McDaniels era because of how bad they're playing. I mean, I don't think it's
the players really gave up today. It felt like they were going into the bye week and they're like, okay, let's just get this over with. Hop back on the plane and go back to Vegas. That's what it felt like today.
I think sadly though, the Geno Smith, when you guys got Geno, I think I told you on the phone, I was like, dude, that is a terrible acquisition. I think you agreed with me because the problem with Geno is and I watch a lot of, NFC West football because that's my division. With Seattle, they were getting held back by Geno. It was never like Geno was taking them forward. They were winning because of Geno. No, it was because Geno was holding them back. And then not only do you get them or get him, but you sign him to an extension. Are you serious? That just doesn't make any sense. So, I think the Raiders, I don't know how much money Geno is owed. I know you can kind of get out of that extension quickly if you really wanted to. It's not going to hamstring you. I don't think Chip Kelly is made for the NFL, sadly. I know his offensive scheme has been criticized by a lot of NFL guys for being too college-like, and I agree with that. His offensive is not that great. You can be great in college because of the talent deficiency, but in the NFL, it's a totally different beast. And then Junty, I've had my doubts about Junty because he played at Boise State. It's one thing for you to run wild against the Hawaiis and the UNLVs and the San Diego State, but then it's a different thing in the NFL where you're going up against guys that, have played, very long time and have dominated. So, I mean, it's a total mess for your Raiders. I mean, I think the first move though, James, is number one, who's calling the defense for you guys? Is it Patrick Graham? I mean, this dude was a hot commodity for head coach just 2 years ago. Like, I don't know how like this guy has just fallen so fast. It doesn't
Well,
make any
they
sense.
lost a lot of players on defense as well, and then they had a lot of one and done players like Spillane leave, and now you have Devin White there, and then the whole Christian Wilkins thing. Just a lot of one and done players or young players that aren't really ready for the spotlight.
Yeah, and the injury doesn't help because like you lose Max Crosby, he's basically your whole defense. So,
Yeah,
I mean, the
no
Raiders
pressure up
like
front.
yeah, they're just a mess. Like I don't know what you do
Yeah.
if you're the Raiders. I mean, I don't know if you can get rid of Carroll just because like, I mean that it would be like the Jets with Glenn where it's like you're getting rid of you would have to get rid of the entire regime at that point.
Hey, let's get
Um
to that. I want to
yeah,
get
yeah.
to that
Let's get
because
to
you
that.
mentioned that because this is the most. This is a situation that maybe could be worse. I just want to keep that theme going. But Carolina did beat the Jets in Jersey 13-6. Carolina goes to 4-3. I don't think anybody had that unless you were like me and thought maybe they have a shot at the wild card, but they would
I picked
have to be.
Carolina to win the division actually.
Oh, that's right. Yikes. I had them as maybe a wild card, but the Jets, they're 0-7 now. Quickly, let's go to Carolina. Bryce Young did throw for a touchdown. He had 138 yards. Andy Dalton actually had to come in and threw for 7 passes. The Jets did stop Waddle and Chuba Hubbard, who played his first game in a while. On the ground, they didn't do as much, but Leggett had a home run, had a touchdown there. But it wasn't much of a offensive game, I would say. Carolina did have 6 sacks on Jets quarterbacks, 3 each, by the way, Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields. And Fields, by the way, as we talk about the Jets, was benched. And remember, Aaron Glenn, the head coach, I think it was during the week, maybe, or I don't know when it was, but he was questioned about why didn't you go to Tyrod Taylor? Why aren't you benching Justin Fields? And he had a really, hard response for that reporter. But look at what happened on Sunday. He had to bench Fields for Taylor. Taylor did throw for 126 yards, but he also threw for 2 interceptions. But Fields only threw for 46 yards. Breece Hall only got 38 yards on the ground. Just not a good day. Tyler Johnson was their best receiver at 60 yards receiving. They got to Panthers quarterbacks twice. I think it was both on Young. But man, I know Joe Bengio is going to have a rant for us on WFAN tomorrow, and we'll be listening for that for sure. But when you diagnose the Jets, and remember, I was the one who said they would go 0-17. I just thought, Fields won't be the answer at quarterback, and Garrett Wilson, well, he was hurt today, but he'll get frustrated not getting the ball. And then the rushing attack won't be the same. I don't care if you have 3 running backs. And then the defense might disappoint at times. So it had all the ingredients to a horrible, horrible poisoning potion. But yeah, they're 0-7 now. 10 more losses to the promised land, and to secure that number 1 pick. What do you think about these Jets? Like, how do you fix it? Does Aaron Glenn go one and done? What's going on here?
James, at first I probably was like, no, I think Aaron Glenn should keep his job because like he's a Jet, he played as a player there, started as a player there. And I mean, it's hard because like the Jets have been a mess, for a long, long period of time. But I am slowly starting to come around to the idea of Aaron Glenn being one and done. And the reason being is because he reminds me a lot of Jerron Mayo from last year, where it was like, just not very clueless of what to do on the football field. I mean, you remember that moment against Denver, close to
Just
halftime last week?
halftime.
Yeah, just before halftime, where like literally just sat there and like was like, oh, I don't, and like had a brain fart live on TV. I mean, the guy didn't know what to do. Time's running out. You just got the first down. Like, what are you even doing? And he doesn't do anything. Gary Wilson yells at him at the end there, and it's just very frustrating. And then he keeps talking about and then the other thing that I have with him is he's very snippy with the media. I don't get it. Bro, you're a new head coach. You're making all these mistakes, and now you're gonna act to the media you've won 5 Super Bowls, and that it's offensive for the media to question anything you do. I don't get it. Gerard Mayo had a lot of embarrassing media stuff last year. It kind of reminds me of that, where it's Aaron Glenn just is struggling left and right, doesn't know how to be a head coach. It seems like he's losing the locker room. Players are getting mad every left and right, and then he's just having all these blunders with the media. So I think that sadly, and look, here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people know. Aaron Glenn's the guy picking the roster. He's the guy that's in charge of personnel. The GM is his choosing, by the way. So the roster is on him. It ain't on, the Woody Johnson, the owner, or anybody like that. It's on him. This is Aaron Glenn running the show there. So I think that if this continues, if they go 0-17, James, yeah, he's gone. There's no way about it. If you go 0-17, you're fired. I think if they go 1-16, I think he's also fired as well. But sadly, he looks like one of the worst coaches that the Jets have had, and they've had a lot of really bad coaches thus far. And I just think with the Jets, any smart mind would know that Justin Fields was not the answer. If you looked at what he did with the Bears or the Steelers, the guy couldn't throw. He just can't throw. He's a really good athlete. He's a really good runner. He just can't throw. And I don't know why on earth Aaron Glenn wanted to go with him at quarterback to start. It makes no sense. You're struggling with the passing game because he can't throw. So, and the Jets' weapons, Garrett Wilson, like you said, he might request a trade. The defense, which was Aaron Glenn's calling card, they've been a disaster all season long. I mean, the only reason why it was 13-6 because the Panthers' offense sucks right now. Bryce Young is very inconsistent. They don't really have a lot of weapons there as a receiver. So, yeah, I think Jets. Oh my God, you were right. I think they're gonna go 0-17. Glenn needs. I'm starting to come around to the idea that Glenn needs to go. And I don't know what you do if you're the Jets. And it doesn't help, James, like we talked about earlier. There's no clear-cut number one answer at quarterback with the number one overall pick this year. So not only are you gonna tank your season, but you're rolling into a draft that doesn't even have a star quarterback that's going to be available. So it makes things even worse. And here's the thing. You could have had Aaron freaking Rodgers, and you chose to get rid of him for Justin Fields. So you reap what you sow.
Let's get to a better game. The Eagles defeat the Minnesota Vikings there in Minneapolis, 28-22. The Vikings go to 3-3. And that's a quarterback controversy there. But the Eagles go to 5-2. Jalen Hurts had a really great game, passing for over 300 yards, 226, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Saquon Barkley really not himself this year. Only ran for 44 yards. Maybe more defenses, spying on him and eyeing on him and running him down. But Devontae Smith got going. He had 9 receptions for 183 yards and 1 touchdown. And A.J. Brown, for all the beef he has with Jalen Hurts and all the meetings that did or maybe did not happen during the losing streak, for all of that, he catches 4 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. The defense came in, got a couple sacks on Carson Wentz. Looking at the Vikings, Wentz threw for 2 interceptions, 313 yards. Jordan Mason did get a rushing touchdown. Addison got 9 receptions for 128 yards. Justin Jefferson really only had 1 breakout 40-yard gain. He had 79 and 5 catches. But I think it was mostly this game with Jalen Hurts having one of his games that he believes he can have, and he finally did it. And it kind of put all that losing streak, all that negativity aside. maybe they played the right opponent and the right quarterback that the Eagles used to know with Carson Wentz. What was your take on the Eagles getting back on the winning side?
Thank goodness to both Philly and Minnesota for giving us a good game in the 10 a.m. slot, because
Yeah,
that one was like, this 10 a.m. slot sadly was not really that fun. I mean, James, to be honest, like, I woke up and I was like, I turned on my TV. I was like, damn, I got the Raider game on CBS. Like, I'm not watching that. But yeah, this was a great game. I mean, it came down to the wire. The big boys finally delivered. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, they've been bitching and bitching and bitching about them not getting the ball. Well, they got the ball and they finally shined, which was great to see. The Vikings defense actually played pretty solid in this game. It's just that, like, they just couldn't get the ball one last time for their offense. But yeah, this was a great back and forth battle between both two teams that could be in the playoffs, in the NFC. And, I really liked how, with the Vikings, that they were able to stop the tush push. Did you see that play?
Yeah, I did.
They were able to. Yeah, they were able to stop the tush push, which is one of the very rare times someone has stopped it. But yeah, this was a great game between like two NFC playoff teams, and we might see these two battle it out down the line.
Vikings probably won't be, but the Eagles right there. I think take back some of that NFC dominance. Well, let's go to the 1:00 slot games here on the West. The Colts continue their fun season. They got real offensive against the Chargers today in Inglewood. The Colts win 38-24. The score was closer than what it seemed. But the Colts go to 6-1. The Chargers have fallen to 4-3. Daniel Jones back in Hollywood. Indiana Jones, 288 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, man, this guy today he had 3 touchdowns. He had big runs. Some like he could have got into the end zone for. He had 2 runs that he could have scored as well. But later on, he was able to score. In the air, Alec Pierce had 5 catches for 98 yards. Tyler Warren, my fantasy tight end, had 4 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman Jr., the former USC Trojan, had a touchdown. And then in the defense, they got to Herbert 3 times, did that Colts defense. Herbert, by the way, he threw for 420 yards. And that was mostly later on when they needed to score, and they did. But he had 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. He was their leading rusher, too. Without Hampton, man, they're really handicapped running the ball. But he had 31 yards rushing. Arande Gatson II. I remember his father with Miami back in the day. He had 7 receptions for 164 yards and 1 touchdown. Keenan Allen had a throwback game with 111 yards receiving on 11 catches. He had a touchdown. Quentin Johnson had a touchdown later on. But this was mostly a game that it felt like the Colts had from the first half on, from halftime on. I think it was 23-3 at the half. And then they kind of let up and let the Chargers score some points. I gotta mention this too with the uniforms the Chargers had. I didn't like them. It was all, yellow. They were going back to the San Diego Charger power days, 70s, 80s, where they all had the yellow signs and the yellow shirts. But that was in San Diego. They had Melvin Gordon. I forget his initials. Let's just call him Junior for now. But he had a 1-day retirement with the Chargers today. Remember, he was one of the Chargers that came from San Diego to LA, and he was supposed to be a great running back for years. And he fell off because he had some fumble. He had fumbleitis. But the yellow jerseys I didn't really like. But the Colts, again, they just show how much fun they're having offensively. They're having these schemes. I don't know, Shane Steichen or somebody else, Shane Steichen, where they're running these inner rounds, or they're having plays that go one way and then they throw the other way, and it's leaving Warren open or Jonathan Taylor open. It's really cool to see, and they're 6-1, and they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. What do you think about the Colts and their big win against the Chargers today.
Yeah, I mean, this year is showing that like Shane Steichen is a phenomenal offensive mind and play caller. And all he needed was not even a great quarterback, but all he just needed was a competent quarterback. Like he just needed a guy that could get the ball out and could just, run the plays that he schemes up, because he's a really good play caller. Like, look what he did with the Eagles when they first went to the Super Bowl that year. With Jalen Hurts. He did great there, and then he made Jalen look like a superstar. And then now he's doing that with Daniel Jones. So he's credit to Shane Steichen. He finally has this guy at quarterback, and he's doing outstanding work. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's having a renaissance, because this dude was like, he's been one of the better running backs in the NFL, but he hasn't a lot of people, I feel like he's very underrated. Not a lot of people talk about him when you talk about like great running backs in football. Like the McCaffreys of the world and other guys like that. But Jonathan Taylor's really making a name for himself. But James, I think the best acquisition of the entire offseason was the Colts getting that Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo to be their defensive coordinator. Like, that defense has been transformed. Like, it's been transformed from like a middle of the pack defense to like one of the top defenses in the NFL, and it's really helped for the Colts. So and then for the Chargers, like, they're one of the most confusing teams in all of football, because I just don't get them. Like, you have a really good passing game, but you don't show it until the game is out of hand. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then they play really good against the bad teams. Against the good teams, they're very middle. So I don't know who the Chargers are. They're very confusing. I think they've been very confusing probably for like the last 3 decades, maybe 2 decades. They just been a very confusing team, and I don't know what the identity of this team is. Like, you have a great quarterback, you should be using him as a passer, but Jim Harbaugh wants to run that bully ball, like power run, heavy type of offense, which I felt like that style clashes with what Herbert is as a quarterback.
Yeah, and without Hampton, it just showed vital isn't vital to a team. Yeah, they got to get Hampton back. And, by the way, they lost 2 offensive linemen, I think, today to injury. So they've already lost 2 with Alt.
More offensive linemen?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Who was the other one? Rashawn Slater, who they lost in training camp just before the season started. And then Joe Alt got hurt, and now they lost Mekhi Becton today. And then before that, they lost Tompkins the other game. So their offensive line, you wonder why Herbert has to get rid of the ball faster, get out of Dodge. You see why. Let's stay in the AFC West to the thriller of Sunday football. The New York Giants were up 19-0 at the end of the third quarter. And you thought, okay, this young team is going to take it and run with it. Nope, they let the Denver Broncos come back. At one point, it was 26-8 in the fourth quarter. And then the Broncos kept scoring touchdowns, and then forced an interception. And then Denver scored another touchdown. Then New York countered with another touchdown. And it was helped by Sean Payton on a pass interference, and then he came out to argue. He was off the sideline, and they gave him a 15-yard penalty there. And then obviously that was a really, really horrible call. But luckily the Giants left, I believe, 37 seconds left. 1 minute and 14 seconds left. And then the Broncos came back and scored a field goal with 37 seconds left. And then they ended up winning 33-32. It was a crazy, crazy ball game. As Casey King mentions, the Chargers, aka the Renters, are totally overrated. It just feels like they're really having a hard time trying to find their identity, almost like the Giants here. But the Giants, they did throw. Jackson Dart did throw for 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, 283 yards. Scatterboo had 60 yards rushing. Tracy Jr. had 1 touchdown. Dart also darted for a touchdown. Wayndale Robinson had 95 yards receiving. Bellinger, Theo Johnson, Scatterboo all had 1 reception for a touchdown. They got to Nix twice. And then Bo Nix, he had 2 touchdowns passing, 279 yards. Not much on the ground. He did run for 2 touchdowns, though. And then not much in the air. Cortland Sutton had 87 yards receiving, Mims 85. By the way, before I get to you on that, Daenerys Thomas was honored today. I believe he was put in the Ring of Honor, number 88. He had his parents there. And Peyton Manning was real emotional. I got to watch the video later. But real emotional day and an emotional win. The Denver Broncos go to 5-2. The Giants go to 2-5, and they're one of those teams like the Jaguars right now, where they're either up or down. And losing a game like this can really set them back. What do you think?
Those damn kickers, James. Those damn freaking kickers. That's why the Giants lost this game, because of the damn kicker. I mean, how do you miss that extra point? That's what cost them the game. The guy missed not just 1. He missed 2 extra points in this game. And that's what, I mean, you lost by 1. Do the math. Make the extra point, you're tied. Make the other extra point, you win the game. So, this was a totally nuts game between these two teams. This has been one of the most craziest football weekends of a while. This was just crazy. Like you mentioned, the turn of events from the Giants being up 19-0 going into the fourth quarter, 26-8 with about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And then the Broncos come all the way back. The Broncos even take the lead at one point in the game. The Giants on 4th and 19 with 1:50 to go. Somehow, some way, Jackson Dart gets the ball down, throws it down the field. He actually catches it. I thought it was short to begin with, but he got it. And plus, I guess there was roughing the passer, which helped. And then, like you said, Sean Payton gets the penalty. And then after that, you just had so much chaos ensue with the Giants. I thought Dart, I think here's the thing. Dart should have not scored that touchdown. He should have. I felt like, they needed a touchdown, but I felt like you could have done it maybe on 2nd down. Sure, would have been a gamble, but you need to leave the Broncos with not enough time to be able to go down the football field, to be able to, get into field goal range to potentially tie the game there. So, but yeah, this was an amazing game. I watched the ending of it. It was just so crazy. Just everything that could go crazy happened in that game. You never see coaches getting penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. I don't think I've really seen it much. And then Sean Payton gets it, which was insane. But to be honest, James, this is why Brian Daboll should not be a head coach in the NFL, because he doesn't know how to manage a game. The timeouts in the beginning was just clueless. Blowing that lead, you're up 19-0. Then 26-8 in the fourth quarter. Those are some unforgivable stuff right there. And I think that for the Giants, that's another indictment of why you need to get rid of Daboll. Daboll's did a good job of developing Dart, but he's an offensive coordinator. He's not a head coach. He doesn't know how to manage the game. And that's one of the problems that the Giants have right now. And, you talked about Joe Benigno, having a rant on the Giants or on the Jets. I know WFAN is going to be going wild because the Giants crew is going to be ranting about the Giants loss. And then you have the Jets crew ranting about the Jets loss as well. But yeah, the Broncos, Bo Nix wasn't great in the clutch. That throw down the field to get them into field goal range to start, that was outstanding. Ball placement right there. And then Sean Payton, called some really outstanding plays late in the game, especially the one to Cortland Sutton late where they get the football down the field. Sutton makes the catch. They have to spike it. They get it to get into field goal range. Just a great win by the Broncos. And this is definitely going to propel them forward as they move forward.
Okay, another good game. By the way, that game, the 33 points that the Broncos scored in the fourth quarter was the most points in the fourth quarter by any team that had been shut out the first 3 quarters in NFL history. Thank you to Adam Schefter for that note. That was, again, just a wild one, and Bronco fans, I bet they were booing. I know I had it on mute. I was watching.
I'm the one Bronco fan that didn't leave the game.
Well, okay. Green Bay Packers, they won 27-23 over Arizona. Green Bay 4-1-1. Arizona 2-5. Jordan Love had an okay game, 179 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Jordan Jacobs was back, Josh Jacobs, and he ran for 2 touchdowns. Tucker Kraft also caught a touchdown. Not much offensively there, but you got to talk about the defense getting to Jacoby Brissett and start with Michael Parsons having 3 sacks out of the 6 for Green Bay. Jacoby Brissett, he had 279 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. They didn't do much on the ground. Trey McBride caught 2 touchdowns, but only had 74 yards. And I'm trying to remember how many yards he needed for like one of those FanDuel parlays I saw this morning. I think it was like for 78 yards. So he missed it by 4 there, I want to say. Or maybe it was 86 yards, but I knew that one wasn't going to go through for the parlay. So anyway, Green Bay's defense did the job. They held off the Cardinals, scored late. What's your quick take on the Pack winning there?
The Pack, great win for the Pack. Micah Parsons is a superstar. 3 sacks. Like, I mean, what a crazy game that he had there. But I think my biggest takeaway, James, is that, again, we talk week in and week out. The Cardinals just cannot close games. They just cannot do it. Whether it's, doing stupid stuff like what they did with against the Titans, or, losing close against the 49ers at the buzzer, like, they just cannot close games. And like Jonathan Gannon, this dude had called a 4th and 1 play. It's like 4th and 1 from your own 48 with about 4 minutes left in the game that would have given that they were trying to ice the game. I don't get, why would you go for it there? Like, you're up by 3. You're not up by a touchdown. You're up by 3. Like, that's basically borderline field goal range for the Packers right there. Like, why would you even go for it there? Like, it's just so mind-numbing decision like that just drives me crazy. Like, these coaches, like, 4th and 1 from your own 48. Your defense has been playing great all game long, and you decide to go for it and basically give the game to the Packers. Just a damn shame from Jonathan Gannon right there.
Okay, so the other game that happened was pretty much a blowout. Stop me if you heard this before, but the Dallas Cowboys could be back. They win 44-22 over the Commanders in Arlington, Texas. They go to 3-1. Do the Cowboys? Commanders go to 3-4. Prescott had 3 touchdowns passing, 264 yards passing. Javonte Williams had a great game on the ground again. 19 carries for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. And CeeDee Lamb, who came back for his first game from injury, I think he missed 4 games. 5 receptions for 110 yards and 1 touchdown, 1 easy touchdown in that game. Jake Ferguson had a couple of touchdown catches as well. They got to Washington quarterbacks 4 times. Daniels had 156 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Mariota came in late. Daniels also had a rushing touchdown. He was their leading rusher at 35. Not much in the air too. Ertz had a 1 touchdown catch. This was just total domination by the Dallas Cowboys, Isaiah.
Yeah, I was shocked by this because I thought this would be like a back and forth, like offensive. Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot to mention the Commanders had 3 firepower offensive players out. It was Samuel, McLaurin, and there was one more. I can't remember who it was, but that really made a difference in a shootout. Deebo Samuel. I think I mentioned him first. Samuel, McLaurin, and then somebody else.
Noah Brown. Noah Brown was out too.
Noah Brown. So think about that. That's 3 pass catchers. And I think in a shootout like that, Dallas, is going to score, but they can't defend.
Right.
So that's why this game just was out of hand.
Well, and then you also forgot that Jaden Daniels left the game with a hamstring injury. Hopefully that's not as serious as it is.
I don't know why, but
yeah, okay. I don't know if he left, and because I don't know if they didn't put him back because the game was already out of hand. Maybe that's why. But hopefully that's nothing serious moving forward. But yeah, I mean, Cowboys, look, they can score. We know that. Their issue is the defense. Can they stop anybody? And, they did a solid job of stopping the Commanders. I know they had all the firepower out with injuries. Jaden eventually left the game with an injury, but it was that Cowboys offense put on a show. Dak was going off in this game. They were able to run the football very well, but this was the Dak Prescott show. He wanted to send a message, and he did, lighting it up on the scoreboard there in Arlington, Texas. But the thing with the Cowboys is they need to get some pass rushers because they just can't get after the quarterback. Their defense can't really stop a leak to save their life, and so they got to get after. They got to make some changes. I know they had Micah Parsons James, but they got to get a pass rusher. That's what they need. They should have never traded Parsons to begin with, and so. Yeah, I think that for the Cowboys, look, they gotta get the pass rush going now if they really want to be a true threat in the NFC.
And then we have 2 games on Monday. They're going to get rid of this, by the way, when the new NFL TV contracts come up. No more 2 Monday night games. But now they have it separate. Not like, what was it? Like a half an hour between each other starting. But today, 4 o'clock West Coast time, you got these 2 teams that have met in the playoffs the last couple of years. Tampa Bay at Detroit, and then you have Houston at Seattle at 7 o'clock. I'm going to say both home teams win in these 2 games. What do you think?
I think Seattle beats Houston because it's going to rain in Seattle, and Seattle's more equipped to handle that. Houston doesn't. They don't play. They struggle with the inclement weather conditions because they play in a dome. And then the other game was what? Tampa Bay, Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's going to be a fun game. I'm going to go with Tampa just because I think that they have the better passing attack. And I think they'll be able to get the.
And Evans are both questionable for the game, by the way. Evans hasn't played in weeks, and then Ibuka had to leave, I think, the game against 49ers last week with both have hamstring injuries.
Yeah, and so I think with Detroit, look, their defense, I don't trust their secondary. Their secondary is very suspect.
Oh, yeah.
We know their defensive line is very good, but if they can't get after Baker, then that's going to be a problem. But this is going to come down to the wire. So, give me the Bucks to win it, but it's going to be like one of those back and forth, very exciting battles.
I hope I get home for the Seahawks game, at least the second half. College football was elite this week. Hayes Fawcett on X mentioned he wrote the teams that lost in the rankings. Number 2, Miami. Number 5, Ole Miss. Number 7, Texas Tech. Number 10, LSU. Number 11, Tennessee. Number 20, USC. Number 22, Memphis. 23, Utah. Number 25, Nebraska. They all lost. And you figured to start this college football segment, how would that translate to this week's rankings? Well, I'll tell you right now. Ohio State, still the number 1 team in the nation. Meanwhile, Indiana goes to number 2. Texas A&M goes to number 3 from 4. I don't know the last time Texas A&M was this high before. Alabama back in the top 4. They're number 4. Georgia going from 9 to 5, like I will tomorrow, but more. Oregon staying at 6. Georgia Tech all the way moving 5 spots going to 7. Ole Miss dropping 3 spots from 5 to 8. Miami drops 7 spots after that Friday loss, I think, against Louisville, right? Miami goes to number 9. Vanderbilt with their big win goes 7 spots up to 10. BYU with the big win over Utah. By the way, I love that both teams wear their colored uniforms. That was a great game on Saturday night. They move up 4 spots to 11. Notre Dame goes from 13 to 12. Oklahoma goes to 13. Texas Tech went all the way down from 7 spots before. So from the 7th spot to 14 with their loss at Arizona State. Missouri 15. Nobody's really talking about Virginia, but they're at 16. Tennessee went all the way down from 11 to 17. UCF, who could be a playoff team, maybe, goes to 18. Louisville wasn't ranked, and they got in, and now they're number 19. LSU, with the biggest drop of them all, went 10 spots down from 10 to 20. Cincinnati went up 3 spots. And nobody talks about them either. They're at 21. Texas went down 1 to 22. Illinois is back in, along with ASU and Michigan, 23, 24, 25. So they are all back in. Meanwhile, USC went from 20, nice to know you, out right there. Quickly, what's your thoughts on the new rankings? Is there any team that you didn't think belonged in the top 10, like Miami after their loss, maybe?
I didn't think Texas still belonged in the top 10. No, I think the rankings was pretty fair. I mean, I think that look, Ohio State number 1, not a surprise there. Indiana number 2, not a surprise there. I mean, they beat Oregon. They have that great win. Georgia being number 5, you said it was, or 4? Were they 5?
It went from 9 to 5.
Not a surprise because they beat the number 5 team in the country, so they basically took Ole Miss's spot. Yeah, that was a great win there. But other than that, I mean, not really a surprise in the top 10. I don't think, like, if you're talking about the rankings in general, I don't think Texas should be in because their game against Kentucky, I mean, they were lucky to win that. Kentucky foolishly went for it on 4th down and goal from the 1-yard line and got stuffed, trying for the touchdown. And then Texas kicks the field goal to win it. They did not look impressive whatsoever. Virginia almost lost to Wazoo, so that I don't know, like why. I mean, I guess they're in it because they've got those great wins, but you know, they're not really like, you know, I don't really view them as true contenders right now. LSU is a very big disappointment right now. I expected them. I mean, James, we did our college football show. I had them winning the national title, and that looks awful right now. Like, I had LSU Miami with LSU winning it. LSU's defense is very good.
That environment in Nashville, by the way, was amazing. They had a lot of LSU fans come, and Vanderbilt just totally took them out. Their quarterback, I forget the dude's name. He was humbled after Valdiel. Yeah. He was humbled after that game against Alabama, and then he just played the game of his life on Saturday. So it was great seeing Vandy get that win. I believe it was the first time since 1990 that Vandy beat LSU, by the way. 1990. Think about that.
Wow, yeah. I like that quarterback. He's very electric. Like, I think that he's really good, like, throwing the football and also running it too. So I've been very impressed by him. In terms of, like, the other, like, the rankings, I'm trying to think. LSU, big disappointment. I thought they would be one of the teams to win the national title. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Now I think a lot of smoke, James, will come out about Brian Kelly and his job. I don't know if you get. I mean, do you eat the buyout at this point? I mean, they're not bad, but for a program like LSU, like, I don't know if I could see them falling into, like, a situation like Penn State where they get upset the next week as well and they lose like 4 games and then, like, the fans are just in just big uproar. Bama, credit to Kalen DeBoer. I think, you know, we were one of the people that were like, yeah, he might not be there long term, and then he's turned it around there completely.
I wasn't. You were. No. Yeah, not me.
Soft. I thought he was too soft for Bama, but he's definitely proven me wrong there. And then Michigan at number 25? You said?
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. They beat Washington, but Washington wasn't really, like, that great to begin with. So yeah, like, that wasn't really a noteworthy win. But I think other than that, I don't really have a problem with it. You know, thankfully there's other teams that we might talk about later that aren't in the rankings that made the most noise this week.
Yeah, let's get to that right away, and then I'm going to get out of here after I introduce it. So Florida fired Coach Billy Napler after a 3-4 start here in 2025. They had a win against Mississippi State on Saturday, but it wasn't a pure win. And it felt like though the athletic director, the boosters, maybe had him fired no matter what, even though they would win. It looked like the season wasn't really going to go anywhere. Yeah, they did beat Texas, and I thought that was going to save his job, but obviously I was wrong, and things are different in the SEC, and that's a fan base that really wants winning back. The home crowd booed Napier as he ran off the field there. Didn't really
Even
think
after a
that.
win, too.
Oh, definitely. It's a $21 million half of the buyout due within 30 days, by the way, the $21 million. So it has to be done right away. Half of it at least. So the Gators at least can work some money around there. But Napier, real quick, he went 22-23 in 4 seasons at Florida, including 12-16 record in the SEC. He was 5-17. Well, that's better than James Franklin against ranked opponents, but including 0-14 away from home in those ranked opponent games. So you never thought Florida was really back. He was 3-12 against Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Miami, and Tennessee. Just a lot of nothing from Napier, especially when it came to big opponents. Now, people complained about Dan Mullen in his time at Florida, but they were begging for times like that after having Napier as a head coach in Gainesville. Where do they go from here, Isaiah? But first, what did you think about his time with Florida? I'm gonna get out of here, but I'll tune in later.
All right, James, thank you for being on the show tonight. Really appreciate you. Yeah, my thoughts on the Napier firing is not a surprise. I mean, he was probably one of the top candidates on a hot seat list coming into this season, in terms of like who would be the most likely college football coach fired. I think that the loss to USF at home week 2, that really sunk him. I don't think there was any way possible that he could recover after that. And like he was basically a dead man walking after that. It was just a matter of when, not if, for him. And you're right, James, to his earlier point about how the athletic director and the boosters had a meeting last week about Napier's future. The boosters essentially said, we're not going to donate any more money unless you get rid of him. So he basically had no choice but to get rid of him. And against Mississippi State, James didn't bring it up, but that was a bad loss that was a bad win by Florida, because that was a game where like they literally should have lost that game. Mississippi State had the ball at the Florida 24-yard line with about 20 seconds left in the game, and instead of running the football, they decided to throw the ball when they were deep in field goal range, and it gets picked off somehow by the big Florida defensive lineman, and that seals it for Billy. They got lucky in that game. They were going to lose that game, but not a surprise that Napier got fired. I think that I would have been more shocked if he didn't get fired. Florida's got big expectations, and their big expectations is they expect to be in the boat of Georgia and Alabama, which is competing for national championships and, only losing 1 or 2 games a year. That's their fan base's mindset, and that's how they operate. And, I think as far as who's going to replace Billy Napier at Florida, you got to go for the home run. You got to go for a big splash. There's no more of these like, oh, we're going to get a coach from like a Sun Belt Conference, which is where Billy Napier came from. No, you can't do that anymore. You got to go for the big splash in terms of the coaching hire, because you need a big name and a star to go up against your rivals like Kirby Smart at Georgia. That's your main rival in the SEC East. That's who you're going to have to go up against, and you're going to be compared to him now. So you got to be able to get a guy who's not afraid of Kirby Smart and a guy that can get the job done and compete against Kirby Smart. And I'll tell you guys right now, there's 2 names that I'm looking at for this Florida Gators job. Number 1, it's Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin would be tremendous for the Florida Gators. He can score points, which is what the Gators like, offensive-minded coaches who can score a lot of points, wear the visor. And plus, Lane's done really well against Kirby. He's got a win last year against Georgia. You got to win. This year he made it tough for Kirby Smart. Put up a lot of points on his defense. So I think that that those Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart battles will be awesome, and he will be the right guy. I feel like to really counter Kirby Smart in Georgia, and I feel like that Lane in Florida would be a really bigger monster than he is. I mean, he's doing great things at Ole Miss, but Florida's got way better resources and stuff. So Lane Kiffin would win lots of national championships at Florida. But he would be like one of the candidates on my list if I'm Florida to go after. The second candidate that I would, and I've been saying this for years, ladies and gentlemen, I believe Florida should go after John Gruden. That should be the guy. John Gruden wants to coach again, and he's made it loud and clear that he wants to coach college football on his shows on Barstool Sports. He's made that clear. And I think that he's done with the NFL. He's sick and tired of the politics job there. But I think that John Gruden should be the next head coach at Florida because I really believe, look, you need a big name. You need a big personality at Florida to succeed. And that's what I think John Gruden would bring. Like John Gruden, I think would be a grand slam in college football. And I think he would do great because the work in college football, look at Pete Carroll. Why did Pete Carroll work in college football? Because Pete Carroll was a guy that was a big personality, high energy, would be able to go everywhere to recruit, would be able to have that fun personality. That's what you need in college football. That's why Belichick's not working out in college football because the guy is a grump and the guy is just that no nonsense type. But John Gruden is brash. John Gruden is, fun, very energetic. Like I really believe that John Gruden would dominate college football. And plus at Florida with all the resources there, he's known for developing quarterbacks. And also keep in mind for recruits, what do they want? What is their end game? They want to go to the NFL. And John Gruden is a Super Bowl champion, so he can flash that Super Bowl ring and be able to get a lot of recruits to come to play for the University of Florida. I think John Gruden would be a grand slam at Florida, and I think that's who the Gators need to hire is John Gruden to be their next head coach. And that's who I would get. But moving to another situation, a developing situation that has happened is, as we stick with the college football, is Mike Norvell. FSU lost again, their fourth game in a row they've lost. They haven't won a game against a Power 4 opponent or an ACC opponent in over a year, which is insanity to say the least. And now doubts are swirling over his job, where Pete Nakos of On3.com, very reliable reporter, has reported that momentum has continued to build from Florida State's decision makers to move on from Mike Norvell. Florida State's decision makers had conversations about Mike Norvell's future. And folks, when your athletic administration and boosters are having conversation about your future, it's just a matter of time until you're gone. Like that always precedes it. We saw that with James Franklin last week, where the boosters met early Sunday morning to discuss the future of James Franklin. And then a couple hours later, he was gone. I think Mike Norvell has coached his final game with the Florida State Seminoles. And here's the thing, guys. The reason why Norvell, I think, will be let go, it's the same thing with Florida. It's these programs, Florida, USC, Florida State, where they view themselves as what they were in the past. Florida with Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier, USC with Pete Carroll, Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, and now FSU, where this program where if for here, that's a crime right there. You see this golden hot, it should be fired. That standard program like FSU, who just I think 2 years ago that's the standard there. And Mike Norvell, he's underachieved big time. And if you look at his entire tenure at FSU, he's underachieved a good amount tenure at Florida State. And I think he's only had like one outstanding year, and then the rest has been either mediocre season. So Norvell, I think he's coaches the game there. Sorry about that, guys. We had some technical issues there, but with Norvell, I think he's done at FSU. I mean, you lost to a Stanford team that is considered to be one of not only the worst program in the ACC, but the worst program maybe in all of college football. Like, this Stanford team fired their head coach before the season. They're with an interim head coach in Frank Reich, who's done a remarkable job, by the way. And then they're not even playing their starting quarterback or their starting running back or wide receiver. They're playing a lot of backups. And you lose to that team, like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And yeah, that should definitely cost him job, because you're not losing to like Clemson or Alabama or LSU or like in Ohio State. You're losing to these bottom tier ACC programs, and that's very not acceptable there at FSU. So I think Florida State's going to open, and I'll tell you guys this: the perfect candidate for Florida State is Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders, if that opens, he should be the top candidate for FSU, because again, it goes back to what I said about the Florida State job. These top programs, what would make a lot of sense for these programs is to hire the candidate that is brash, to hire the candidate that's good personality and can coach. And Deion can coach. He's an alum of the school. He will be able to draw recruits left and right, because we know he can recruit top talent to Florida State. And I think that, Deion would work wonders at his alma mater, and I think that he would definitely take the job in a heartbeat. That's the guy that I've been clamoring for a year now to be the head coach at Florida State. I think he would do great things there in Tallahassee. So that's who I would take for Florida State. And then let's go into another volatile situation before we go into the comments and then end the night. It's been a really good show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. I know we've had some tech issues that has derailed the show a little bit, but appreciate everybody for staying tuned to the show. And that's Clemson. What do you do about Dabo Swinney? Like, they just lost again to SMU. Clemson's got 4 losses now. They're stuck in basically no man's land where they're in the middle, and that's about it. For Clemson, I don't know what you do, because Dabo's won a lot of national titles there. He's arguably the greatest coach at Clemson. I don't know what you do. I really don't, because you're kind of stuck where Dabo doesn't like to want to dabble into the transfer portal. He doesn't want to, do NIL stuff. He's kind of an old school coach, but he's kind of falling into the Mike Gundy trap, where Gundy was a great coach at Oklahoma State, but what did him in later was his inability and refusal to get into the NIL, to get into transfer portal, to do everything that you need to be able to have success. So I don't know what you do. It's a bad situation there at Clemson. I could see Dabo honestly leaving for another job, because I just think that he's kind of plateaued there at Clemson. I think that, he might view it as it's great to have a fresh start. So I could see him leaving for like a Florida or something like that. But I think that's a situation to keep an eye on, because I could see that job maybe opening and that Dabo could leave for another job. They're not going to fire him, but I could see him leaving on his own terms. But going into our comments section before we wrap up for the night, we had a lot of comments from our great friends that have watched our show tonight. My guy, Nathaniel McWorth, Nathaniel says, wow, that Broncos game. Wow, indeed, Nate. That was an amazing game. Wow, just Bo Nix with a comeback, Sean Payton the penalty, all the twists and turns of that game. It was just amazing to watch that football game unfold. Nate also says that his friend Cole wants me to mention Nebraska. Yeah, that was a bad loss by Nebraska, losing against Minnesota, a team that's not really that great. And not only that, you only put up 6 points. And I'm not blaming Dylan Raiola for that loss, because Dylan Raiola played his ass off. But there were a lot of passes where he put it on the money to the receivers or the tight ends, and they just flat out dropped it. You can't have that in college football, and in football in general. So, Nebraska, like, that's a game that they needed to win. This program was going up and up and up. For them to lose that game, drop that game to Minnesota, it's a bad loss for them. It sucks. Casey King says, good evening, guys. What's going on, Casey? Thank you for tuning into the show tonight. Really appreciate you. Casey also says that Thursday night games need to go bye-bye, and it's a curse. LOL. Thursdays should just be opening week of the NFL season and annual Thanksgiving games. I kind of agree there, Casey, with you. Because I think that with the Thursday night games that, it's definitely not as exciting, a lot of the games, because, teams are on like not full rest, and, guys that are hurt from the previous game more often than not cannot come back to play because of the short week. But so it's really watered down competition. But Casey, I also think that, like, look, this year we've had some really great games on Amazon. Like, I mean, Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit are really enjoying it, I'm pretty sure, because the games have been really good and really tight, especially that the Steelers Bengals game, the 49ers Rams game was very exciting. So they're having some really exciting games this year. The NFL has done a better job of putting up like a good slate of games for Thursday night, but I could see that point where, the Thursday night games need to go. I could see that. But I don't know if the NFL would do it just because of just too much money involved. But I gotta give them credit though. They have put together a really good slate this year. Let's see. Casey says that the Bears are another team I can't figure out, but they did what they had to do today. There's a better team. They are a better team than the Saints. Saints are garbage or doo-doo. Yeah, I agree. Saints are not a good team. Bears, that's another team, like I said, they're like with the Chargers. They're a very confusing team. The Bears are one of the teams that is in that list because, like, they played some really easy competition so far, but they haven't really looked that great against the best competition. We'll see how they are moving forward. But yeah, I haven't really figured out the Bears out as well. Casey also says the Dolphins are a bust. Mike McDaniel will be fired soon. Yeah, Casey, like I said when we talked about the Dolphins, I think there's going to be drastic changes in Miami starting tomorrow. I think McDaniel gets fired tomorrow. I think that Quinn Ewers will probably be the quarterback. I mean, Tua Tagovailoa, we know what he is. He's a turnover machine. He's very overrated, and I think it's time to cut the cord there when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa in Miami. Casey says Isaiah, Florida State could also be firing their coach soon as well. Yeah, I agree. Mike Norvell is coach's last game. I think that when the boosters get involved, when the athletic department is talking about your future, yeah, that always preludes a firing. So I think he's going to be gone, and well deserved. Like he needs to be gone. Like that. Florida State should not be where they are right now. Coming off a 2-10 season, everybody was like, "Oh, they beat Alabama. They're back. They're back. They're back." And guess what? They've lost 4 in a row to teams like Virginia, to Pitt, to Stanford, of all teams. Like, you shouldn't be losing to these teams. You're freaking Florida State. And the fact that you're losing to these teams, it's a disgrace. It's a big disgrace. So I don't think that he's there. I don't think he's going to be the coach after tomorrow, to be honest. And I think, sadly, the state of Florida is going to be like a hotbed for coaches that are going to get let go. And then Casey says the Broncos and the Chiefs will battle it out for the AFC West. I agree with that. Casey says long shot for the Florida job, John Gruden, but Lane Kiffin will be good hire. Those are the 2 candidates, Casey, that I think Florida should target. I think John Gruden would be amazing for college football and for Florida. And I think Lane Kiffin as well. If I'm Florida, I want them to hire John Gruden just because I think that, Lane is a great coach, but he's a guy that, I think that I want to see him stay at Ole Miss, to be honest. Like, I think he's found a home there. I think he's definitely risen that program up. And I'm tired of just seeing him move around, to be honest. Like, I think Gruden to Florida would be great. The brash personality. You need someone to steal the recruits from Kirby Smart. There you go. John Gruden's your man to do that. And then Casey says Lincoln Riley needs to go as well. That's tough because Lincoln Riley can win you the games that you're favored to win, but he can't win you the games that, that USC fans expect him to win, like the big games, like Notre Dame, That game, I'm not surprised that you guys lost. I'm surprised at the play calling because that call on 4th and inches was an awful call. Play action pass, really? Like that's what, like I said, Casey, that's what drives me nuts. Is these coaches just overthink things. They think they're so smart. They overthink things, and then they end up running the dumbest plays that you ever seen. Like 4th and inches. What are like really you're running? First of all, you should never run a 4th and inches play from the shotgun, number one. And number two, 4th and inches, it should be either a quarterback sneak or it should be a fullback dive. That's what you should be running, or just power right over the middle. Like that's what you should be running. You shouldn't be getting too cute. And I think that's what sometimes is the issue with Lincoln, is that he gets too cute sometimes, and that he just overthinks things. And I think you guys should have beaten Notre Dame? No, I think Notre Dame was the better team. But I think with Lincoln, look, he's done a better job, I feel like, this year against teams that you guys should beat. Like he's winning those games. We'll see what happens against Oregon. We'll see what happens against Nebraska in a couple of weeks. I think the interesting game is UCLA. I mean, Jerry Neuheisel and Tim Skipper have the Bruins rolling right now. I think that's going to be a very interesting game for you guys. That's going to be fun. Casey says that I think Brian Kelly could be out at LSU. That's a tough one because I could see it being like a Penn State situation where Brian Kelly, loses another game that he's not supposed to lose to, gets upset, because there's a lot of people, including myself, like I said, had LSU as a team that could win a national title or were their national title pick. And for them to already be like, maybe even out of the playoff race, like right now, and we're in early October or mid-October, that's not good for LSU and Brian Kelly, because Brian Kelly was brought in to win championships there, and he hasn't even made the playoffs there at LSU, and he's on the verge of missing it again this year. So that's a situation. I don't think they're going to fire him because he says too big of a buyout, but you never know, because LSU's, like I said, is one of it's like Florida. It's like a USC. It's like a Florida State. They're not patient. And so I mean, we'll see what happens with that. And then Casey says, sorry, but Deion is another overrated coach, hasn't done a thing at Colorado. I mean, I don't fault him for this year, though, Casey, because I think that Colorado this year, they lost a lot of talent. They lost Travis Hunter to the NFL. They lost Shedeur to the NFL. They lost a lot of talent. So this year, I really don't fault him for, but I mean, Deion can recruit. And that's what is a big thing in college football, is getting the talent. That's why Mario Cristobal has been very successful in Miami. He gets the talent. Is he a good coach, in-game coach? No, but he gets the talent there. And I think Deion, he's kind of like Cristobal, where he gets the talent, lets the coordinators do their job and coach the team up. And Deion is a really good motivator. So I think he could do a lot of great things there at FSU, and that's who I would want if FSU does fire Mike Norvell. But let's get into some final thoughts before we close up for tonight. Really appreciate everybody for tuning in to tonight's program. All right, final thoughts. So tomorrow, NBA starting up. Round Ball Rock is starting up, guys. NBA on NBC. It's a new era. We're going to be doing a NBA preview show, so make sure you guys tune in for that tomorrow. We're going to get into our teams, preview our teams, do some predictions as well, predict the season, NBA finals, all that good stuff. We'll predict the entire NBA season. Basketball is about to be back starting on Tuesday night. So make sure you guys tune in for that. My guy, Ben Cruz, who unfortunately could not be on with us tonight, he'll be doing Kicking It with Cruz, I think sometime this week. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We got Game 7 of the ALCS, the two best things in sports. Game 7 tomorrow night between the Mariners and the Blue Jays. Winner goes to the World Series. Loser heads to Cancun for the offseason. A lot of MLB managerial news. Tony Vitello could be the new manager for the Giants, going straight to MLB from Tennessee. That's crazy. I do want to give a quick thought on that, actually. Look, this is a football show, but I want to talk about that Tony Vitello hiring. Buster Posey, if he gets that done, that's going to be a very interesting hire, because this guy hasn't coached in the in professional baseball before, so it's definitely going to be different because you're going to be managing men instead of kids. He's very energetic, which is great. I mean, Pat Murphy's very energetic. I think that's what you need right now in baseball. He's definitely going to go to bat for his guys. I don't know what his offensive and defensive philosophy will be, so that's going to be interesting to see. But hey, I mean, if you're Tony Vitello, you're a really good coach in college. You've won national titles there. I mean, why not take a swing at MLB? Why not go to the Giants? I mean, you're not going to a team that doesn't have talent like the Pirates. You're going to a team that is loaded with talent that I think just needs a new voice to be in the clubhouse there. So I think this is going to be a good hire for the Giants, actually. I'm very stunned. When I saw it, I was very stunned that that's who they're going with, because I thought all along it would be Nick Hundley. But look at Jeff Bannister. Jeff Bannister needs to be a major league manager again, because he's a guy that's very energetic. He's a raw type of guy, and those guys typically do well in baseball. So I think this is going to be an interesting, fascinating hire. I think it's a decent hire for the Giants. He needs to surround himself with coaches that have MLB experience. But hey, coaching is the same thing whether it's in MLB or college baseball. It's the same thing on the field. Okay, you just got to manage the game. And I think that, look, whether it's making pitching changes decisions, or whether it is like when to bunt or stuff like that, or to take out a pitcher, I mean, it's the same thing. So I do like the hire for the Giants there. Casey with one last comment. How about them Dodgers? Think they will win it all? I do, because I don't think the Mariners or the Blue Jays pose a threat. Maybe the Blue Jays do, because they do have the lineup to keep up with the Dodgers. The Mariners' offense is very inconsistent, so I don't trust them. They do have the pitching, so I could see it being like a 6-game series, but LA is just very deep, very talented. And I think, like, look, you look at the managers, right, for both of those AL teams, like Schneider and Dan Wilson. They don't have any experience. Roberts has the experience. I don't trust Schneider when it comes to like the pitching decisions that he makes. Like, he takes out pitchers way too early for my liking. Even Max Scherzer took umbrage with one of his with trying to take him out, and he just yelled at him in one of the games. But hey, if it's Dodgers and Blue Jays, I mean, that would be a great matchup, because you have Max Scherzer facing his former team. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Dodgers and Seattle, Battle West Coast World Series. That definitely has the flair, I guess. But congrats to the Dodgers. We'll see who takes part in the World Series. But yeah, guys, it's been a great show. Tune into our NBA preview show tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. Basketball is about to be back. NBA on NBC is about to be back. But guys, it's been a tremendous show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. What a great football Sunday and football weekend it's been. But until then, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. And hope you guys all enjoy the great football action we have tomorrow, as well as the baseball stuff, basketball. I mean, we've got everything. Hockey. I mean, I literally went to a hockey game yesterday. Saw the Sharks play up against the Penguins. They lost again. Sadly, they just lost again. But we've got some good action so far in the NHL. I think I'm going to be going maybe another Sharks game coming up in a couple of weeks, but hockey's back. We got football, we got baseball, basketball coming back. So a lot of good stuff coming up, but hopefully you guys all enjoy it. But until then, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. And until then, I will see you guys next week on another edition of Extra Point next Sunday.
Bang, bang, not a game.
Purdy out of the shotgun, drops a couple of steps, going to take a deep shot to Brandon Ayuk. It's the float and caught.
Cousins, first read taken away. Left side, he throws. Wide open pitch. From being able to make a play on that football. That's where Sutter was so good last year in the red zone. Knicks evades the run. Knicks the fake. Another fake.
going to get a free play. Rodgers is the master at it, and a touchdown by Lazard. Jones on the fake, pressure coming, and he's sacked by Parsons.
God, corner.
Open man Hudson. The throw, caught. Hudson lost the ball. Looked like a touchdown. Instead, it's a turnover.
On the pocket. Cuts away from Chenal, who's trying to get after him for a second time, but the ball is thrown to the end zone, and it's caught!
On it to McCaffrey, right up the middle, and a stiff arm, McCaffrey for 6. Duval!